out for it. So I
Me
mentioned,
neither.
we spent our last $7,000 on the property education, but the bit I didn't mention is when we learn about how it is easy, it's hard. I know that might sound like a complete contradiction in terms. It's hard work, but the formula is easy when you know what you're doing with property.
Simple.
Which we do.
It's simple, but it's hard.
Simple but hard.
Yeah, the formula's simple, but the work's hard.
Precisely.
Yes.
Just like anything, just like fitness, just like anything else.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So,
you want to lose weight? It's simple, get in a calorie deficit.
But why would anybody have a personal trainer? It's all on YouTube. You know, it's that mentality again. But we sold our house. We sold our family home. We had, again, not huge amounts of money, but it was everything we had. It was maybe 130, 140 grand in equity. We moved into a rental and then we invested every last penny that we had into our business, which has massively accelerated our growth.
Hey, it's me again. It's Paul Mort, ready with another episode of Paul Mort Talk Shit. Today, I'm talking shit with the one and only Ellie. Should I say Mckay or Mckay?
Mckay.
There you go. I knew it was Mckay. Mckay Brows. We're here with Ellie Mckay Brow. Ellie, welcome to Paul Mort Talk Shit.
Thank you for having me, Paul.
Are you excited?
Loving the podcast studio.
It's all right, isn't it?
Looks phenomenal.
It's all right. All right, I'm going to get straight down to it. This property thing that you're in, this property game that you're in, how the fuck did that come about? Because I've heard you're a bit of a baller in the property industry. Me and Ellie are in the same mastermind. I've been on Ellie's mastermind. I've been on her podcast, but we've never sat down and had a big, deep conversation about your business and what it is that you do. And we've been desperate to get women on.
Yeah.
So this property thing, what's the fucking deal with it? Like, how did you get into that? Where you at right now? What are you up to right now?
Well,
come at me.
Yeah, so what's quite interesting about it, Paul, is that we got into property back in 2006 when I was in my early 20s. And I'd love to give you some...
What were you doing before then?
Well, so I was in quite a high performance sales job. At one point I had 100 people working underneath me, so I was doing quite well. Then I pretty much, through personal reasons, my sister was quite unwell. I left that and went to the comfort of a sort of 9 to 5. I was in quite a low level 16 grand a year job. Ended up needing to get a second job just to make ends meet. We were always quite entrepreneurial. We always kind of knew we wanted more.
This is you and your husband, right?
Mark, my husband and I, he was an electrician. At the time, he was still working for the company he did his apprenticeship with. And we just started to feel that there was more to life. So we did what any young budding entrepreneurs do, and we sat there and Googled get rich quick.
Really?
Yeah, we did.
Shit.
Yeah. And it was literally...
well, you didn't end up selling Herbalife, which is good. Yeah,
there is time. But we basically, we went balls deep into a property development. We bought it off plan. We did very little due diligence. We allowed ourselves to be sold a dream. We bought a property that for 125 grand, it was due to be worth 190 on completion. Of course, things don't work out like that. The development got flooded. The recession hit. It was then worth 60 grand. We had something like 3 or 4 months to come up with 40 grand. Otherwise, you were coming after our assets, which for clarity was a second-hand like Volkswagen Polo in the house that we lived in. It was probably worth about 80 grand. But we were massively out of our depth. I pretty much had a full-on breakdown with everything that happened. And I was quite happy to retreat to my normal job, which was working by this point as a careers advisor, working in prison, helping people. So got nothing.
Oh shit!
I
didn't know this.
Property, yeah.
So this is what I'm hearing. We had this job. We thought, let's have a go at this property thing.
Yeah. You
tried to do it just you two on your own, no advice, no help, no coaching or anything. It failed spectacularly. Yeah. And then you went back and...
So basically...
You kind of went back to the safe.
I pretty much had
safety.
I had a breakdown. There's no two ways about it. And it was only years later that we returned to property.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. No.
So we didn't just dive straight back in.
No.
Fuck this. It was a fuck this shit.
I was broken.
Really?
I was stopped. I was not unstoppable. I was stopped in my tracks. And I just wanted to know how much I was earning every month. My risk profile was completely wiped out.
Yeah.
And it was only through years of seeing Mark then set up his electrical business.
Yes.
Seeing him leaping out of bed on a Monday morning, full of energy, full of passion, full of enthusiasm. Yeah. I was just like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yes.
Like my alarm goes off and I'm just thinking, oh, for God's sake, here we go again, back to the grindstone sort of thing. And that was my mentality. If I saw him with his laptop out, this was long before we had kids in an evening, I'm like, you're missing out on Love Island or The Real Housewives of Cheshire, or like, surely that's not better than sitting on your laptop. He was like, this is my passion, it's my purpose. And it was through years of watching him do that I started to get my little passion igniting again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then what was the next step?
Oh, well, so this is where you have your Hollywood moment, isn't it? You're like,
yeah.
you commit, you make your decision.
Yeah.
No, it didn't really work like that.
Can I throw in another question here? Because was there any time, and this is for my guys listening, because for a lot of guys that I work with, they make the mistake of trying to fix their partner. And the partner likes a little complaint. The guys are like, oh, well, they'll start giving them advice, and then it ends up. Was Mark ever lecturing you or preaching to you about that maybe you should give this a go or anything like that? Or was that just a...
No.
Because it seems like he was doing this thing and he acted like a bit of a lighthouse and you were like, I want some of that. Is that what went?
I mean, it was probably a lot more gradual than that.
Mm-hmm.
So for quite a while, I was thinking, you know what it's like when you're an employee. I was looking at working in the prisons with the civil servants. I can't remember that.
It's a long time. 20 years for me.
Well, see, for me, it's only 3.5 years. I'd only ever been an employee. I didn't know any different. So
hang on a second. Did you just say you've only been doing what you do right now for 3.5 years?
Yeah.
Fuck off.
Yeah.
I shouldn't probably say that to a podcast guest, should I?
No, it's okay.
That's mad. All right, let's... Wow, I thought you'd been going much longer than that.
No, so...
So what you've done in the last 3.5 years is fucking insane. We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
That's mad.
Yeah.
Jesus. Okay, let's rewind again then. So Mark set up this electrical company. He's firing you up. You're like, fucking hell, I want a piece of this.
Yeah. So I'm seeing him and his business partner. They've worked together now. He's also a business partner with us in the property business.
Yes.
We've got a few businesses. But
yeah.
Seeing how they kind of evolved, they went from, they were always earning good money as sole traders by we're based in the north of England, 50, 60 grand a year, maybe 70 grand a year.
Yeah.
But to get that, they had to work away. They had to work long hours. It came at a cost. And the natural evolution was, well, how do we get that amount of money, but we can work a little bit closer to home? Or, and it was natural evolution, getting a couple of apprentices and what have you. Bit by bit, this was happening. No business training, just a couple of sole traders that are trying to better themselves.
Yeah.
They were all
flying by the seat of the pants.
100%.
Yeah.
Very aspirational, yes. Very good at what they do, but lacking that little bit of business acumen. And in 2016, a national construction company went bust, owing us a significant amount of money. And the gist of it was, it almost cost us our business. It literally came down to the wire whether or not we could keep trading.
Yeah.
We lost 75 grand.
Yeah.
We had 18 lads on the books at the time.
Shit.
They actually took out a bank loan to pay those lads, knowing that they would not get paid themselves, because that was important to our company and our company values. And it was a real defining moment for us collectively, even though I wasn't directly involved in that business. It was a case of when we realised that we were able to stay solvent by the skin of our teeth, albeit saddled with a shitload of debt. It was a case of, do they just go back to being sole traders for a relatively easy life where they can earn the 60, 70 grand a year?
Yes.
Or
stay under the VAT threshold.
Stay under the VAT threshold. Or do we fucking go for it? And our definition of success seriously changed at that point, because for anyone who's been there, when you're waking up in the middle of the night, having heart palpitations, when you're worried about keeping a roof over your head and everything that comes with that, it's absolutely horrendous. And that was a really dark time for us. It was coupled with, I was in hospital. I was pregnant at the time with our second daughter, Isabella, spent the entire the entire pregnancy either in hospital or in bed with quite a lot of complications. We had so many different things going on. So we had this defining moment. We're like, right, okay, we're going to continue. And it wasn't, like I say, it wasn't this Hollywood moment. We then found out, God, you couldn't make this stuff up. Literally, we're there, have given birth to our daughter Isabella in the midst of all of this chaos and financial crisis and stress and everything else. Mark and I had decided we had our two beautiful girls. We'd only ever wanted 2 children. We were done. Our family was complete. So much so he was booked in for the SNP on the Monday for his consultation.
Yes.
The Friday before, I've got extreme postnatal depression. We're very much in the thick of it still. Yeah. And I found out I was pregnant with our third little beautiful addition.
Fucking hell.
Our son, Sam. And it just kept on coming. So it wasn't a case of we made that decision to commit to success and then the stars started to align.
Yes.
It absolutely wasn't like that. We then lost Mark's dad unexpectedly to cancer. My sister was in hospital, seriously unwell. We lost my gran. It was just like boom, boom, boom. And I think that's when we...
Well, mate, they do say that the strongest trees grow on the strongest winds, right?
What I couldn't agree more with that. And you know something, Paul, I genuinely believe now, and it doesn't feel like that at the time, and there'll be a lot of people listening to this with the pandemic. That really
it's easy to look back in hindsight, isn't it?
You're struggling. And if somebody had said some of the stuff that I'm about to say now to me when I was in the midst of it, I'd probably wanted to punch them in the face. But should you be willing to choose to accept it, the pain and all those stresses, all those hardships, all these obstacles, they serve as such an opportunity to really grow, to develop, to learn, and to empower other people.
Do you know, last week, well, you know that I had COVID for the last 2 weeks and it was hard. And there's a quote that I read last year and it was the first thing. I think it's important to have these, one of my coaches would call them amalgams. They're like sayings and phrases and quotes that you kind of fall back on when negativity comes knocking. Yeah. So there's this one quote that I love and I think it's by Napoleon Hill. I thought it was by Nelson Mandela and then I actually looked it up yesterday and it's that every adversity, every heartbreak, every failure carries with it a seed of equal benefit. And I'm like, I fell back on that last week and that's what's happened here. Like but it's hard when you're in it, innit? It's hard when you think about that. And I think that these quotes and these phrases that you fall back on, you've almost got to ingrain them in your brain like a fucking tattoo. Like a tattoo, right? This is happening for my growth. Yes. And all of that period there, that was just you growing your muscles. And you can't grow muscles unless you pick up the weights, right? If
you've not experienced it, it's really difficult to get that growth. You can't get that in a book. And my favourite quote, and it's one that I remind myself daily, it's a Jim Rohn quote. It was, don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. That's why I try and keep it real because, yes, we've achieved quite a lot, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
And theory doesn't cover the cost of admission is one of my favourite quotes.
No, it absolutely doesn't.
Theory doesn't cover the cost of admission.
You can tell you've got a coaching programme.
Yeah. I don't know how do you know that? So what were some of your I mean you probably were just this sounds mad. I don't know if you're making it up as you went along back then, but what were some of the things that helped get you through that? Because there'll be someone listening to this that is going through that mess, if you like, right now.
Yeah. And also for transparency, I've struggled with anxiety and depression for years, for well over a decade. And for the majority of that time, I was on hardcore medication for anxiety, for depression. It would really like space me out at times. I'd be on every concoction of tablet that you could ever get because that meant, you're papering over the cracks. I wasn't taking any responsibility for myself. So how I dealt with it at the time was drinking too much.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, not as in being an alcoholic, but it definitely felt
just
like
numbing yourself.
Yeah, sedating myself. It was, we just needed to do what we needed to do to kind of get out of such a difficult period of time. And sometimes it's putting one step in front of the other. And my mindset's so much more evolved now and I've got a lot better coping strategies. And, I do things like cold water immersion as you do, the ice baths and exercise.
I've got something new for you.
Oh God, what is it?
I bought it yesterday. So I've always wondered, you would have seen me in the winter in that fucking blow up. Yeah. The ice bath thing. But then it got too warm outside. Yeah. So the water's not cold anymore. Well, this weekend, I discovered this thing. It's called Brass Monkeys. You're welcome, Brass Monkeys, if you're listening. You can sponsor the show. It's a plunge. Have you seen the Robbins documentary on Netflix?
Yeah.
Have you seen that thing that he plunges in?
Yeah.
You can buy them now.
Can you?
You can get them to go outside in your garden. Check this out. You don't have to change the water, ever. Huh? For 9 months to a year, you can leave the water because it's got a filter in it. And you can have that water at whatever temperature you want. So you can have it so it's all ice, like chunked ice across the top. I've just bought one from your garden.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're 500 kilos in weight, like. But they bring it to your house and they put it outside. You've got to be able to plug it in so you can just run a lead through the wall. Yeah. I've just ordered one. It takes, I think it's coming in September. But as soon as you said that, I was like, because this is the thing, because it's not, the cold shower's not great. Going in the sea is amazing, but it's a pain in the arse. It's inconvenient as fuck. But just going in your back garden and jumping in this fucking plunge pool, like the Robbins one, you can get it in a long bath shape, or you can get it where it's like deep and it's a plunge pool. How cool is that?
Oh my God.
It's like not cheap, but I don't even care how much it costs, but what an investment. It's like $8,000 or something. That's expensive.
Yeah.
But I don't think you can put it. I was saying to the lads yesterday, as an entrepreneur, I think wellness is your number one asset.
100% agree.
Your well-being is your number one asset. I found that out last week.
Well, I've just spent bloody 10 grand on holiday. I'm not likely to be able to go on. So when I get my money back for
I was supposed to be in Ibiza last week. Me. Well, yeah. So anyway, so you're doing. I've totally forgot where I got too excited. I've been desperate to tell someone about that. Desperate to tell us, hey, I've got this bath thing. It's amazing. Anyway, where were we? You are like, you look after your health right now.
Yeah, so back then, honestly.
You weren't doing that back then?
No. It was just survival mode.
Yeah.
We were eating crap. We weren't looking after ourselves. Our lifestyle probably wasn't great. But you know what? We were turning up every single day. And sometimes that's enough. putting one foot in front of the other to get to a point where you can start.
But you look
to
at it
climb
now,
out
you
of the
know, Ellie.
hole.
You do the best you can with the tools that you had at the time.
Yeah.
You didn't know about cold immersion then.
No.
You didn't know about the whole taking care of your body thing. You didn't know about any of that then, right?
Yeah.
You had the tools you had, and you used the tools you had.
I tell you one of the most profound things that kind of happened to me that really shifted my mindset, because back in the day when I was in my late teens, early 20s, when I was my high performance job, I was very much into the Tony Robbins, and I'd stopped smoking. I remember reading the 7 Days to Change Your Life, Paul McKenna, and all of that kind of thing. And funnily enough, when I left that world and I went into sort of my entry-level jobs, if you like, suddenly all that stuff was load of woo-woo, happy-clappy bullshit. You know, all the stuff that had made me successful, I turned my back on. Isn't it interesting how we do that? Like when we exercise or we get into positive routines, we look great, we feel great, so we stop doing it and we put all the weight back on. We tend to self-sabotage. But this... so
why do you think that is then?
Why do I think we do it?
Yeah, why do you think we stopped that? Do you know why I think? I'm going to interrupt you here. I think sometimes our environment changes, so it's no longer the environment that we're in, our peer group, the people that we're surrounded by, they don't do that. Yeah. So I think that rubs off on us a little bit, right? I mean, you're in a mastermind, so you know how powerful that is. I do. So again, one of the other most, I suppose there's been quite a lot of things over the years, but it's taking full accountability, not just I will be successful if all the ducks are in a row. It's like I am going to be successful despite what obstacles life throws at me. Back to the Jim Rohn, don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. You're going to get fucking curveball balls. Not just in business, but professionally. You know, my mum's in a lock psychiatric ward as we speak. I've got shit going on everywhere. Our project manager's just handed his notice in. That's normal. In my world, that kind of... I think what you've got right now from that whole period back then is that it's like, a guy that I'm working with right now calls it a comparison frame. Like what you're dealing with right now is nothing compared to what you've already... Do you know what I'm saying?
Exactly. I think once you've hit rock bottom. So again, there's a few things. I've literally felt suicidal. I know you can relate to that. Yeah. I've never actually been at the point where I would have taken action, but I've felt overwhelming feelings for quite a long period of time where it would be easier to be dead. Yes. And if I'd not had the children and had not had Mark, I may have made very different decisions to the one that I made. Of course. So I don't know if you call that suicidal, but I certainly had suicidal thoughts, suicidal tendencies were definitely creeping in, thinking about how I would kill myself. So when you've been in that place, you realise very quickly that nobody's coming to save you. No one's coming to fucking save you at all. And when we started getting back into property, it was a bit of a law of attraction. Our business partner's cousin randomly had been on a property training course. Now, I didn't even know that there was such a thing as property training courses. If I did, they probably just thought they were a scam. I'm sure some of them are, but they certainly aren't.
There were a lot of them that are.
There will be, but again,
wasn't there like a BBC documentary about one a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah, there's a guy that's got a bit of a bad rep at the minute. Yeah. It wasn't with him for the rest.
I'm sure he's still making a fucking killing.
Yes.
In fact, I'm pretty sure he is.
Yeah. What is it they say? No publicity is bad publicity. Yeah. He's still got a phenomenal YouTube
Isn't he the one that my mate Mike win it? Yeah. Isn't he the one that he did the whole... Mike did the whole things about him, didn't he?
And, yeah. What's he called? The dragon. Shaz Razul, is it?
What did he do?
I bet I butchered his name. I've just had a complete mental block then. Oh, he went after him, YouTube series.
Oh, did he?
This kind of thing.
Did he?
So I think it's not just property though. I think it's the wealth creation space, the space that you're in as well. Yeah. I think because everyone is looking for a quick fix because it's all relevant. Everybody wants the 5-step process to get rich.
You get like the business coaches that haven't actually run a business apart from their business coaching business.
Oh, our action coach, our old action coach. Yeah. I swear to God, you'd only ever been an employee. It's very difficult to find that.
Well, I remember, Ellie, when I first went self-employed, I was 21 and I went on, it was just around the corner actually, where my old office was. They had a week-long course on how to set up your own business, right? It was like can you remember, what were they called these? They were like council initiatives or enterprise. Yes. They're like enterprise schemes. It was a local enterprise scheme. I don't even think they exist anymore. Where it was all about encouraging people to set up their own business. And over the 7 days, we had different people come in and teach different days. Yeah. But there was only one of them that was actually in business. And it's mad because I'm still friends with him now. Jeff Ramey's called. And that it's mad though, isn't it?
But you get this with college courses and everything else as well. But it was really weird. So the stars started to align for us when my cousin's business partner, he went on this property training course. He was already hugely successful.
Yes.
His mind was blown. He came back, the language he was using, he was just mega inspired. And actually it was Mark, both the Marks, they're both called Mark.
Yeah.
Booked to go on the course.
Yeah.
And I was watching one of the videos on mindset that Mark had on, playing through the Apple TV through our living room in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And he was talking about, Billy, one of the mentors, was talking about something's humanly possible. It's within your reach, quoting Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
And I started to dare to believe. It was like, why not me? I have always believed I'm capable of more.
Yeah.
But there was a big disconnect because I was having panic attacks at the thought of leaving the house. Like I say, I was struggling massively with anxiety and depression, but I've always had an inner grit.
He has an amazing quote that I heard the other day on anxiety, right? And I love this. It's that anxiety is the emotion of growth. And I was like, wow.
Oh, I love that.
Isn't that really cool?
I've done a lot of growing.
Yeah. Me too. I was like, wow, it's a real interesting thing, isn't it? If there wasn't an emotion that went alongside growth, it would be some kind of anxiety or stress or worry.
Well,
it's cool that, and you're anxious. Good. It means you're growing. Good.
I know I'm coming out all the cliches, but growth doesn't come from comfort. If you've not got that butterflies, that feeling of anxiety, the chances
you don't grow muscle by not picking up the weight, do you?
Exactly. 100%. So we went to this property training. It was an absolute nightmare getting there. All our childcare had fallen through. I remember literally 2 days before we were due to go to Glasgow for the training, I was literally in the fetal position. Like I'd given up. I just said, what's the point? It's not meant to be. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
I can't keep picking myself back up. Every time I pick myself up, life just knocks me back down. I'm just going to stay down. I actually said those words. I said, I'm just going to stay down and then nobody can hammer me any more blows. Again, I was in victim mentality. It was everybody
I've had that
else's
before as
fault.
well. Like I'll do something, and this was me back when I really struggled with this bipolar. I'd go and speak in an event, and speaking is one of my very favorite things to do. Like that's where it's where my fucking fire burns the brightest when I'm on the stage, right? Yeah. And I'd always have a come down after, and I'd say, Lesley, I'm not supposed to be fucking happy, me. I'm not supposed to be happy because every time I do something that I love, there's a massive come down. I mean, I eventually got a handle on it, but I totally get where you come from there. You're like, almost, you do get to that, well, what's the point? It's not going to work.
Yeah.
What's the point? Something's going to come along and slap me across the face.
Yeah.
So was this a turning point for you?
Yeah, it was. There was a story that one of my mentors, Billy, said on day one of the property training. The reason I gravitated towards this particular property training company, because there was a lot of emphasis on the mindset, which for me is far more, of course, you need to know the practicalities of how to invest your money. That goes without saying. Yeah. But ultimately, it's like anything. You can learn pretty much everything from YouTube. It's the application, it's the mindset.
Theory doesn't cover the cost of admission.
It really doesn't.
Yeah.
It 100% doesn't. But he said the story of Darren Hardy, who was the editor of Success magazine.
Oh, dude, Darren Hardy's book, The Compound Effect, is fucking sick.
It's phenomenal.
What a fucking great book.
Yeah.
I love that. In that book, my favourite part of that book that I always remember, and I actually got that when I was coming back I've been to America for one of this Wake Up Warrior things, and I got that in the airport on the way back, and I finished it on the flight. And there's a bit in it about momentum, about a roundabout, what they call them things, the kids' merry-go-round, is it called? And he's like, the hardest part is getting that started. Once you get it going, the hardest part is pushing it. Yeah. Once it gets going, it's easy. I really love that book, guy. Darren Hardy.
It's totally true because, you said to me, how did I get out of that hole in 2016? And it's difficult to really go into detail about that because it's such a distant memory now, but it was the compound effect of just every day trying to be a little bit better than I was the day before and just not stopping, refusing.
Just showing up,
And no matter how small those steps were, taking the steps. But the story that he said was Darren Hardy had went to his mentor at the time, a guy called Jim Rohn, with a 40-page detailed list, front and back, of his perfect woman. He detailed every attribute, how she looked, how she conducted herself, her spiritual beliefs, her religious beliefs, or absolutely everything in finite detail. And he went to Jim and he says, Jim, how do I go about getting a woman like this into my life? And Jim said to him, no, Darren, you're asking the wrong question. The question you need to ask yourself is, who do I need to become to be worthy of attracting women like that into my life? And he went, and that exact list that he'd done, he marked himself against all of those attributes. Did he possess them? And if the answer was no, he went out and set to work on becoming that person. And in almost eerie detail, his now wife appeared almost like a fairy tale
That's mad.
into his life. And
That's
that's
mad.
what I did. I looked.
I'm
in the
assuming that
mirror.
wasn't on Tinder.
That wasn't on Tinder, yeah. Engineering your own destiny. But you know what? I looked.
You didn't get catfished.
You didn't get. Oh no! I heard a funny catfish story last night. Funnily enough, but yeah.
But hang on, you can't say you heard a funny catfish story last night and then not finish it. Listen, I'm gonna write that down because I've got a feeling you're about to say something profound and I don't want to get distracted with a catfish story. So you heard that story?
Yeah, I looked in the mirror and I was probably, I mean, I'm guessing 2-3 stone heavier than I was just now. I was looking at myself and I thought, would I do business with me? A big part of what we do is for our property business is we raise private investment. Would I give myself £500,000? And I thought, what the fuck, you know? And I thought, well, what sort of attributes, again, would you be looking for? Well, you need somebody that's got knowledge. You need somebody that's confident. You need somebody that's well presented.
It's great energy.
And all the other stuff.
Yeah.
And one by one, I started ticking off those lists and going to war with myself, not making excuses, not accepting mediocrity. And even though I was struggling to leave the house some days with panic attacks, I was like, I'm going to set up a social media profile. I'm going to start putting myself out there. And that's kind of where it's all started snowballing a little bit, because rather than following the conventional advice that's out there on how to build your brand, I started sharing the real life struggles, the insecurities, but also from a place of, and this is how I've overcome them.
Yes.
This is what we are achieving.
Yes.
People like the success stories. It's no good just blogging about how shit your
victim
life
part.
is.
Yes.
It's like, yes, you know, and I keep it real. And that's why I just shared then about the fact that my mum's in hospital just now. Not a woe is me. Everybody's got their shit going on, especially during this pandemic. But it's just to say, I think when people perceive that you've got a certain level of success, they then presume that you don't have the same problems. And that's absolutely not the case.
Yeah, because social media, people like to show the highlight reel, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's just not the case, is it?
Yeah. So we went on this property course.
Well, yeah, so we went on a property course.
With Billy.
With Billy and Paul, but I'm still very good friends with now, still work very closely with them.
Yeah.
And we had no money. So I got made redundant whilst I was on maternity leave. Again, stars were aligning.
Yeah.
We had our last $7,000 in the world.
Yeah.
We weren't destitute.
Yeah.
I was on job seekers allowance, but that was to get my stamp. We weren't destitute. We were typical middle class. We had the nice house, we had the nice cars, the nice holidays, and fuck all in the bank, you know?
Yeah.
So we got this redundancy money, my last $7,000 in the world, put it on our property education.
Yeah.
And within 4 days of doing that training, we'd bought two properties.
Shit.
No money down. And then we've
so tell me this.
not stopped.
Everyone talks about this, right? I've heard Rob Moore talk about it. I've heard Stephen Green talk about it. How the fuck do you get a house with no money down?
Well, you have to use money, just not your own money.
Right.
You know, it's the art of leveraging finance. If you can raise
I'm just getting a property development lesson here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's other ways.
Right now, I just give money to Frank Flegg. That's all I do. You know Frank? You know Frank, right?
I do know. I'm just thinking, why are you giving all your money to Frank and not me?
Well, because he made a better sales pitch. He said, Paul, here's what he said to me, right? Frank,
Picked up my game.
I'm going to get Frank on this year, actually, because Frank's a fucking fascinating character, right?
Yeah.
Frank said to me, Paul, he said, I know you're making all this money. He said, what are you doing with it? I said, well, I don't know what I'm doing with it. So he said, if you give me this much money, I'll give you this much back. So that was it. Yeah. I was like, all right, where do I send it? It's a smart. Anyway.
It's the easiest sales pitch in the world, though, isn't it? Look at the amount of people getting 0.01%. You're going to get to a point that's costing you money to keep your money.
Well, do you know what? It's kind of something that I learned from Dr. John DeMartini, this. And it's like, I get the value of investing in property, but I have no fucking desire whatsoever to learn about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? I think that's what I'm like with YouTube as well.
Yeah.
I get the value in having a big YouTube following, but I have no desire to learn about it. So Dr. John DeMartini's like, well, get someone else to do it.
Why would you go out of your state of genius to learn about something that's of no interest to you? Because Steve Jobs, he talked about conducting the orchestra, when I think it was Steve Wozniak said to him, what do you actually do these days, Steve?
Yeah.
He's like, I conduct the orchestra.
Yeah.
You don't need to know how to play all the fucking instruments.
Yeah.
You just need to know how to.
So Ellie, is it the, because this is really interesting to me, this. Is it the property stuff, the technical aspects of that property stuff that you're into, or is it more of the mindset stuff that you're into now?
I'm not very operational.
Are you not?
No, I'm not very operational in terms of running the project. I couldn't tell you how many projects we've got on the go at the moment.
Yeah.
I know.
So what's your role then, leader?
Visionary.
Oh, come on.
Yes, I'm running the marketing department. I do a lot of the relationship building, the networking. Through my social media, we pretty much bring in most of our private investment. We've raised millions of pounds.
Are you in that LinkedIn game? Is that your thing?
Yeah, in 2019, bear in mind, I only started on LinkedIn back into 2018. 2019, I'd raised £4 million in private finance.
Holy shit.
Just through my account. So first full year doing social media. And that was just one of the profiles. That's not including Facebook or your in-person meetings or your networking events or every time that I'm talking in front of
speaking,
things like that. So you like massive, but the thing that I'm most passionate about, you spoke about when you're on stage.
Yeah.
By default, I found that my passion and purpose is helping people. It's inspiring people. It's trying to get that message out on a one-to-many basis. I don't really know where it's gonna.
Yeah, it's interesting. So property is just the vehicle that you have to help people right now.
Absolutely, yeah. And I don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm just not excited. I'm going to be completely honest. I don't get excited by a 3-bed semi in Doncaster. It just doesn't do it for me anymore.
My mind went straight to the word semi there. You heard it here first. Ellie Mckay does not get excited by semis. She only goes for the full hard-on.
You've got to go all in.
This episode's called Paul Mort Talks Dicks.
Look at your t-shirt. The writing was on the wall.
You're right. So the question that I want to ask you, probably the one that I want to ask the most is, what's it like, because I've never been one, what's it like being a woman in that industry? There aren't many, right?
There isn't.
The people that I know in that game are all men except you.
Yeah. I see that. It's an interesting one because I'm actually doing a lot of work about women in construction at the moment.
Yeah.
Working with a friend of mine, Michaela, who's an ambassador for the National Federation of Builders.
Yeah.
And I'm also going to be doing some PR work for our fire protection business and stuff as well. So to answer your question, there's 100% we are the minority. There's definitely discrimination.
Yes.
I always choose to use that as a USP.
Yeah.
Because if there is less women, then you've got more opportunity to stand out and make an impact and make a name for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think as well that, I don't know, I think women can definitely bring a different dynamic to most things, can't they? So
yeah, of course.
It's really good to have the balance. Although ironically, I do tend to get on better with men. So I don't know what that tells you.
Yeah. Yeah, men are dicks.
I'm a bit of a dick.
Someone said to me the other day, how come you coach men and women separately? I'm like, because men are fucking dicks.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking. I'm joking, gentlemen. So what's the hardest part then about, what do you find the biggest challenge around all of this thing that you're doing right now?
It's a spinning place. I mean, with the property, with any of the businesses, you're going to get challenges. You're going to get staff letting you down. You're going to have, at the moment, getting building materials is an absolute nightmare.
Is it? Yeah,
because of Brexit and because of COVID and everything else. So a lot of the refurbs are on delay. I mean, you constantly getting challenged. And when I said earlier, the bigger you get, the bigger your problems get.
Yeah, the higher up the ladder you climb, the more your arse hangs out.
The more your arse hangs out. But again, it's looking at those as opportunities to grow, but not going in blind to it, because we'd been building a relationship with a really high net worth investor.
Mm-hmm.
We'd spent best part of a year nailing terms and conditions for him subsidising all of our property deals.
Mm-hmm.
All of our acquisitions, all of our development costs. We were in essence going no money down. It was a phenomenal arrangement. Like I say, it'd all been going back and forth with the solicitors. And the Friday before Boris locked us down and we were due to get our first instalment, they just pulled that funding. Oh. Now, at the time, we had 10 properties going through and no finance in place for them. And
what's your kind of go-to strategy when shit goes sideways? Like, do you have anything that you do? Do you have anything that helps you stay on top of it? Do you have any kind of practical things that you do to manage all of this?
That was a bit
like when something comes like that and fucking smashes you in the face and challenges pop up. Like, what are you?
So okay. So this is bringing a story from earlier full circle a little bit. I fell down to my knees. I remember it. I fell down to my knees, and I remember saying out loud, there was only me there in the kitchen. I said, "How many times do I have to pick myself back up?" And then I just thought, literally about 60 seconds later, I thought, I have a word. Well, however many times as it fucking takes, get back up on your feet.
Forever, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I tell you what, I had the most empowering half an hour of my life after that, because I do so much to help other people, to support them, never do it from a place of expectation, but I've built up a hell of a lot of goodwill over the years by genuinely putting other people first. And within the space of 20 minutes, I think it was, I'd raised £500,000 in private investment. I was literally ringing up everyone on my contact list that I knew I had money and saying, look, billionaire investors backed out. We've got projects need funding. Do you want in? Yes or no? Yes, right, I'll be in touch. Literally phone down next person. And £500,000 raised within 20 minutes. And I could have kept on going, but we had what we needed within a short space of time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the bigger challenges aren't around the business stuff. The business, we've got multiple businesses, which always provides complications, like the pandemic. We've always got somebody isolating in a minute. One of our refurbs, I think we had 8 tradespeople self-isolating at the same time.
Friday was the first time we've had the office open for 2 weeks.
Is it?
No one's been in. Kat's the only one that hasn't had it. Yeah, mad, eh? 2 weeks closed completely.
It's, I mean, these are sort of the real life challenges that everyone's facing. But for me, the constant thing is being present, being focused, making sure that I'm not sacrificed. I've got 3 young children. We've got Sam that I was telling you about. He's just turned 4. Bill is 5 and Sienna's almost 9. And yeah, of course, you have to put the hours in.
Listen, let's talk about this right now. So you're running multiple businesses.
Yeah.
7 figures plus, 3 kids. How the fuck are you managing all that?
I started getting up a bit earlier. But this is a big thing for me. If anyone follows me on social media, be like, Ellie, you've changed. I've always been a great advocate that you can get up at 6 o'clock and get everything done. Fuck the 5 a.m. club. Well, I've broken, haven't I?
Have you?
Something had to give. There was not enough hours in the day. I've officially joined the 5 a.m. club. So it's...
I'm still awake then normally.
It's keeping focused. And again, I don't want to make out like I've always got all my shit together. I'm still very much on my own journey. And sometimes I'll do things that work, like I was doing during the first lockdown where I was doing TM meditation and it really worked. And then I stopped doing it. Yeah. So at the moment, I'm going back to basics. I'm returning to that because I think, was it Gandhi said, if you don't have time to meditate, then you need to meditate more than ever.
Yes.
And I really believe that because there is a tendency to just
TM's cool as well, isn't it? Yeah.
TM's great.
I'd been doing this thing called Ascension for about 5 years. And then in January I did a TM course and I enjoyed it.
What was the other thing?
Transcendental meditation. Sorry, not transcendental. Ascension meditation.
Right.
It's very similar, but you get 4 mantras instead of 1.
Okay.
You know, in TM you get 1 mantra, right? Yeah. But we got they're basically the fucking same.
Yeah.
They just have a different name. I've got a feeling one of them started and then the other one started after that. I don't know which one was first, but TM's really cool.
It's things like that. It's the taking responsibility for my diet. Again, I have pizzas and stuff at the weekend, don't get me wrong, but we eat clean through the week. We do well, exercising, whether it's your cold showers, your TM meditation, your journaling, whatever it may be. And I don't say that in a preachy way because everyone's got to find what works from them. It doesn't have to be getting up at 5 a.m. or doing what everybody else does. Some people might be night owls, but I think you set the standard for your own life and then you just, ultimately it's only yourself that's letting down.
I think what you're saying is this ultimately boils down to strategies.
Yeah.
Like everyone has a strategy for everything. You have a strategy for feeling stressed. You have a strategy for feeling anxious. You have a strategy for managing your fucking day. And you essentially, you're saying we do TM, we do the cold therapy, we give a fuck about what goes in our body.
Yeah.
And that we're getting up early, and that helps you manage this whole, because that's a busy fucking life, Ellie.
And also,
when you must laugh when people tell you they're too busy to do some of the things.
Oh, I mean, it's. Yeah.
When someone says, "Oh, like, are you guys doing any education around this, or like, are you doing any education on property?"
No, we don't.
No.
Do coaching.
So if you did education, I'm going to guarantee that someone say, "Listen, I'd love to do it, but I'm too busy."
Yeah.
I'm like that. I'm like, mate, I'll swap schedules with you anytime you fucking want.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that the people that say they're too busy don't even have a schedule.
Yeah.
Like, how the fuck do you know you're too busy? And you're making it up. It's like saying you're broke, but you haven't checked your fucking bank account for 3 months, so you don't even know.
But I struggled with this. I struggled with not just the goal setting, although I do struggle with that as well. But I really struggled with the discipline of not necessarily just early starts, but really being rigid and planning your time and things. I was your classic entrepreneur. I didn't want to be boxed in.
You had that fake flexibility.
Yeah, but the reality is having a bit of structure it's the only way to buy yourself the freedom. And it takes a while for that really to sink in, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think that you got to, there's a book that I read a while ago, it's by this guy, Stephen Pressfield. It's called Turning Pro.
Yeah. And
I'm like, you can't there's a lot of people who are running businesses like fucking amateurs.
Yeah.
You can't do it. People are like, do you still have this? Do you plan out your day in that? I'm like, yeah, I'm a fucking pro. I don't particularly enjoy it, But actually, I must admit this, when we're talking about structure and we're talking about rituals and we're talking about routines and we're talking about getting up on time, I'm like, I just don't fill my day full of shit that I hate doing.
Yeah.
I didn't get into business to do things that I hate.
Yep.
There are times when I have to eat shit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There are times when I have to eat shit and there are times when I have to do things that I don't particularly want to do. But I'm like, I never have a problem getting out of bed in the morning because I don't make the first thing I do something that I hate.
So do you want to know?
I get up early in the morning. I mean, I'm not a 5 a.m.er. Definitely not a 5 a.m.er. The main reason is just because I train on a night time.
Yeah.
Like my training's at 6 p.m., 7 p.m. So if I did get up that early, I'd be fucked for that.
Yeah.
And that's my favourite part of the day.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it's difficult to get out of bed when there's nothing to get out of bed for that's exciting.
Yeah.
And I think most people, when they create these morning rituals and their morning routines and that, I'm like, you're putting the things in the morning routine that you don't even like doing.
100%.
Why would you do that?
And I was dreading it. You know, there was no enthusiasm.
If your morning ritual requires motivation, it's the wrong thing.
But I'm like this with life as well, very much like you. So I like just talking shit to people.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'm in my area of expertise, if you like. You know, professional shit talker.
It's what you value highly. It's what you value highly, communicating with people and vibing with people and having interesting conversations with people.
100%. Whereas when I'm dealing with like the architects and the QSEs and stuff like that, I mean, I'm bored. I used to go around these walk rounds and I look around, I'd be engaged for all of 5 seconds and then they'd start talking about all the technical drawings and things like that for some of the bigger developments.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just switching off. I'm thinking, I've got my social media content. I'm kind of done. And
Yeah.
the more I started leaning into the things that I did enjoy, the podcasting, the public speaking, things like that, the irony being the better energy I was in, the more traction and momentum we were getting. And even though if I'm talking on a podcast or if I'm doing public speaking, it's never about property, it's about mindset, it's about the journey. The more I did that, the more people were drawn to us. And
it's interesting that, isn't it?
Yeah, they were. And the more investment we raised, the more properties we would get. So yeah.
And you weren't even talking about property
and
money.
About property.
That's mad, isn't it?
No.
Yeah.
Because it genuinely isn't my priority. One of our company values is people over profit. People say stuff like this all the time, but
impact over income.
Yeah. Is that one of yours, is it?
Impact over income is what I use.
Yeah, no, I love that because people say it and then they walk. We've just had a situation recently where we've not had our offer accepted yet. It's been submitted and it's looking very hopeful, but we're hopefully buying a street. 24 houses, which will be really fucking exciting.
Coronation Street.
I've already asked, can we rename it? But you can't.
Albert Square.
Mckay, haven't you? I was thinking. Like on a rock.
I love it. I love it.
But basically, the reason I'm sharing this story is because we've just structured that in a way. We've learned. We've got a JV partner that's funding the full thing. Yeah. And we've basically come up with a different way that could structure that deal, which would basically put an extra £200,000 in our pocket. But we are even though we've only got a verbal understanding with our joint venture partner, we're not going down that second route because it's the same thing. It's like people over profits. No, our word is our bond. We do what we say we're going to do. Yeah. We've committed to this person. And you know what? 200 grand, it's not exactly a drop in the ocean, is it? But ultimately, I just think if you start getting into negative energy like that, where it's not penny pinching, is it 200 grand? But what message are you putting out to the universe? If you genuinely put profits over people, I just think you're scuppering your future success.
Yeah, me too. Let me ask you a question around two things, mindset and money, because dealing with the numbers that you're dealing with, that's like, for some people listening, they're going to be like, well, it's all right for you, it's this, it's that. Like, where did your mindset around money come from? Is it something that you learned? Is it something that you picked up? Because I know for me, none of my family are entrepreneurs. No. None of them are, I wouldn't call them financially successful. There's only me. And everyone's like, well, where did you get your mindset and money? And I'm like, well, I learned some mantras back in the day. And I've got a few things around that I'm going to share, but I want your take on this first because you're the guest.
Okay, so it's interesting. My parents were a bit more entrepreneurial.
Were they?
Yeah, they started off selling textiles at marketplaces, and then they opened up a shop. Then they opened up a second shop. So growing up, we had money. We had the detached house. We went on the 5-star holidays to Florida and what have you. And then it all went tits up.
Oh shit! Okay.
They went bankrupt. The marriage collapsed. We ended up in an ex-council house. We had bailiffs at the door.
Oh, so you've seen both sides of it.
I've seen both sides of it. So people who say money doesn't make you happy, absolutely, you need to have your foundations there. But if you've also experienced the hardship that it can cause through not having money, which I have on several occasions now, then I would challenge anyone on that one. Yeah. So yeah, I certainly had saw both sides of it, but we've got to just. I think you've got to be a little bit tapped in the head to do what we do, Paul. And I don't necessarily think everyone's cut out for it. So
Me neither.
We spent our last $7,000 on the property education, but the bit I didn't mention is when we learn about how it is easy. It's hard. I know that might sound like a complete contradiction in terms. It's hard work, but the formula is easy when you know what you're doing with property.
Simple.
Which we do.
It's simple, but it's hard.
Simple but hard.
Yeah, the formula's simple, but the work's hard.
Precisely.
Yes.
Just like anything, just like fitness, just like anything
else.
else.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So,
you want to lose weight? It's simple, get in a calorie deficit.
But why would anybody have a personal trainer? It's all on YouTube. You know, it's that mentality again. But we sold our house. We sold our family home. We had, again, not huge amounts of money, but it was everything we had. It was maybe 130, 140 grand in equity. We moved into a rental and then we invested every last penny that we had into our business, which has massively accelerated our growth. And our attitude even then is you can strip anything off of us. You can strip our assets now. You know, we've got multi-7-figure property portfolio. You can take all of that off us and we will rebuild because you can't take away what we've learned.
Yeah, nice. How can someone improve their mindset around money?
Again, I think it comes from really working on yourself, because it's that feeling of not being worthy or not valuing what you do. And ultimately, if you don't value what you do, then how can you expect other people to do that? And I, as somebody who was in sales for years, had a real mental block around selling. I started to feel like if I was selling a product or a service, I was scamming people.
Yeah, you were manipulating people.
I'm manipulating people.
What do they call it? They call it persuasion, don't they?
Yeah.
You're persuading people to buy things.
Yeah. But making money is not for people like us. That was the kind of language that I was brought up with as well. It was
money doesn't grow on trees.
Money doesn't grow on trees. If somebody drove past in a Ferrari, they're obviously a drug dealer. Or
we were talking about this the other day. Like I was talking to the kids about. I'm like, you ever noticed that the bad guys in movies are always rich?
Yeah.
Always. It's like it's no wonder that people think people have such a bit of a mind fuck with money. But there's a couple of things that I wanted to add in here. Actually, I'm glad you mentioned the word value, because I believe that if you bring value, if you can add value to people's lives, that's when you get paid the big bucks.
Yeah.
You add value to people's lives. I add value to people's lives. The more value I can demonstrate that I add to people's lives, that's marketing. Yeah. Then the more money I earn.
Yeah.
Like, I remember one of the first, we talked about Tony Robbins before, right? And I remember the first two, what does he call them? I'm not an incantation guy, right? I'm not standing in front of the mirror shouting shit at myself, right? It's just not me. But I am a fan of having mantras or those little quotes that you can fall back on. I remember the first two that I ever learned. One of them was on can you remember the old Get the Edge thing that he did? Where Tony Robbins was on QVC and he used to sell his box sets, right?
Yeah.
He used to sell his DVDs and his CDs. And I remember walking around when I was like 21 with this portable CD player. And Robbins would have you going, all I need is within me now. Yes, that was the first mantra I ever learned. And then another one that I learned, I was maybe 23 or 24, and it was a guy called Steve Jack. He's now changed his name, and he's like a fucking shaman that does all the ayahuasca shit, right? He's a fucking madman. And he said, Paul, I'm going to give you a mantra now, and I want you to use it in all your meditations going forward, and write it down and use it. And it was, money flows freely and easily to me for the greater good of all. Yeah. And I think if you believe that when you get paid, everybody benefits, it completely changed my concept of money. I mean, when I get paid, he benefits because I help him. His family benefits. And I benefit. My family benefits. And I think if you change your beliefs around money, it becomes way simpler and easier to make it. But the one around value is that money will always be attracted to value. So the more I think people ask the wrong questions. They're asking, how can I make more money, instead of where can I deliver more? Where can I bring more value? How can I demonstrate more value? We're like two peas to a pod. So you mentioned Tony Robbins there. I went to Unleash the Power Within back, I think it was 2018, my first year in property. Yeah. I'll be completely honest, I went to raise finance. I paid the top tier tickets, which were 5. So you went to network? Went to network. I thought anyone that's going to value their own personal development and pay 5, 6, 7 grand for a ticket, they're probably my avatar, which is successful people. Like you're saying there, they've got their own businesses or they're in high flying careers. They just want somewhere to park their money. They're cash rich. They want their money to work for them. They want their money to work for them.
So what I hadn't realised I was doing up until this Tony Robbins event, if I was chatting to somebody at a networking event, whatever, night out, and they said, for example, they were a barrister,
Yes.
I would stop listening to what they were saying and started thinking how I could bring in property into the conversation, let them know what we do and sort of streamline the conversation a little bit. And I realised after that Tony Robbins event that my mentality, my attitude was very much fixed around what can I get from other people as opposed to what can I give other people? How can I become valuable to other people? And doing it from a place without expectation. That has to be the caveat, not like, hang on, I've done 4 good deeds.
You don't give to receive. You don't give to receive,
But you said something else there, which this is very recent for me. This is really profound. So I mentioned I've always, historically struggled with anxiety and depression. So I'm completely medication free now. I take responsibility for my own actions. But that dark dog still bites. And gratitude's something that I've always had a bit of a disconnect with, because it's, you're in this personal development world and gratitude is banded around a lot, isn't it? But if you genuinely find it difficult getting through your day, how can you feel truly grateful and blessed for what you already have, which also, I believe, blocks you getting to the next stage of success. And also, as a high-performance person, as an entrepreneur, your listeners will get this, because we're always kind of focusing on what we want next or how we can improve or what the next big thing is. We can be guilty of, we don't do it deliberately, but we're almost putting our happiness on hold until we have that next big event, or when we land that next big property deal, or everything else. It's just a tough few weeks.
I'll be happy when
we go on a holiday and we can relax. And, we only have today. It's the power of now. And I woke up and I had the most, what do you want to call it? Spiritual. I don't class myself as religious. I do consider myself quite spiritual. I know you and I have spoke about this before. And if you were religious, you would basically say it was like God touching you, which I know sounds batshit crazy. And somebody else would say that, I probably think, fuck off. But this genuinely happened to me. And this was only about 2 months ago. And I woke up and I had this, I'd had a nightmare, and I'd been awake most of the night. I could remember what the nightmares were about. And I had this deep sense of peace that I've never experienced since my childhood. I just felt full of love. I felt full of gratitude. I realised how lucky I was. I've got the most amazing husband and business partner. I've got 3 beautiful children. We're not where we want to be. We're obviously, we're scaling. We want world domination, but we've got no financial troubles. If I said to Mark, you know what? If we don't buy another property this year, does it matter? Does it matter? We have everything. In the words you just said, I said, I have everything I need in life. Just here, I've got you, the kids, we've got this lovely house, I've got my beautiful puppies. Anything else is a bonus.
By the way, she means dogs there.
Here he fucking goes. So do you want to know what happened? Right,
what happened?
This is woo-woo. This is woo-woo. So what happened the very next day? We raised £500 million in private investment from a previous conversation from however long ago. A property that would place an offer in months ago that never got back to us, accepted the property. Within that space of a week, Nick's asked me to speak at Expert Empires with Ed Milet. We have put an offer in. This street was brought to our attention, which is going to be a multi-million-pound development. It's looking very probable. And the stuff that has happened to us, it's unbelievable. As soon as I stopped pushing for more, the universe gave me one word, and it was to relax. And I stepped back and I really tried to reconnect what was important to me. And what happened? All of this crazy shit's just...
This happened to me yesterday. I decided yesterday that I was going to close one of my women's programs down. And I was saying to the team, and I've never mentioned this for ages, and I said to my team, this might mean that I could try and get this paperback book deal over the line. I'd never had a message from this guy, ever. But the head guy at HarperCollins sent me a voice note yesterday. I'd never talked about a book for ages. He sent me a voice note just saying, I got the aftershave you sent like 7 months ago. Cheers. Didn't mention the book deal. It was just, he'd be the guy that would get the deal over the line for me. He'd be the guy that was like, yeah, Paul, we'll take you up on the option in your contract of doing a new paperback. And I was like, it's mad how that happens. It is mad how that happens. And I would say that I think it's this concept of kind of letting go.
Yes.
The word that you used that I was really interested in was you didn't need it. Doesn't mean that you don't want it, but you're not coming from a position of neediness. I think that people get into this place with money where it's almost like, if we looked at it like this, they want heat from the fire before they put the logs on. They're almost like, well, when you give me heat, I'll put logs on.
Yeah.
It's almost like the wrong way around. I think
Yeah.
you got to start asking, where could I give more? How could I give more? How could I offer more value? How could I be more interested in people? Where can I offer more? Because people invest in us because they know that we can add value to their lives.
That's it.
They know that we can add value because we demonstrate that we can add value. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what most people aren't doing. They're trying to get the money before they're like, oh, well, if you give us the money, then I'll give you value.
Yeah.
I think you've got to be both ways. And it's the worst, here's the worst part, or the best part, it's actually perceived value. Do you know what I mean? Like, some people don't get why someone would invest 150 quid in my lowest level pro. They're like, how much?
Yeah.
150 quid. Well, it's because they perceive it as valuable. Like that fucking bath thing. Paul, you spent fucking 10 grand on that bath thing.
Yeah.
I see that as valuable, but some people don't.
Yeah. 100%.
And it's not even about the money. It's like, well, I want that.
Yeah.
That would add huge amounts of value to my life because I know that as an entrepreneur, my well-being is my number one asset. Talk to me about this then. What do you think is we already mentioned it, but I wrote it down because I'm really bad at interrupting people because I get too excited. If something pops up, I have to ask it straight away. That's why I have to write things down now. You said that not everyone's cut out for this entrepreneurial game. What do you think is the number one trait that separates somebody that makes a success of being an entrepreneur, or somebody that is cut out for it and someone that isn't?
Oh, if it was just one, would it be resilience? Possibly.
I don't know.
I mean,
I think that's a trait that we're going to have to be successful at anything, right?
I think you've got to be hugely passionate. You've got to be willing to do whatever it takes. Yeah. All I hear is I'm willing to do whatever it takes, but
Accept.
Not
Accept that.
Weekends. Oh, I'm not doing the public speaking bit. Oh, I'll do what you do, but I'm not bothered about the
I would do anything for love,
stuff.
but I won't do that.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, pretty much.
I will do anything for love. I bet you're glad you haven't got your fucking headphones on now. I love it. Young meatloaf. I'm like a young meatloaf. Mort loaf. That's how they call it. Paul Mort loaf. I think that I think one of the number one traits we have to have is the ability to handle uncertainty. Mm-hmm. Like, this is a Robbins thing. Robbins is like the quality of your life comes down to how much uncertainty you can comfortably handle. I think that anybody that wants certainty in business is destined to fall fucking flat because there isn't any.
Yeah.
There isn't. I don't think there's any. In fact, these days, I think that you hear it all the time. People want to start businesses, but they're like, oh, but I've got the security of a job. I'm like, actually, there's no fucking security in a job now either.
There's absolutely. I'd rather.
Because if you're in a job, you're relying on. I think you're relying on somebody else to be good at their job for you to keep yours. Yeah. But I think business boils down to you have to be comfortable with uncertainty. Yeah. Like, I thrive on that. Like, I love the uncertainty. Is it going to work? I don't know, but that's the exciting part. If it doesn't work, great. How do I fucking make it work? A
lot of people wait for the perfect time as well, which will never come.
No.
When we got into property, it was like, what about Brexit? The property market is saturated. You know, you're constantly being, I refuse to be bound by the limitations of others. Some are well-intended, others are just sad, poisonous, jealous fucks, you know, which I'm probably not meant to say, but it's true. But even from the well-intentioned people, they're not, you mentioned about your family, they're not necessarily people. If I want financial advice, I'll go to someone that's hugely successful, that are a multi-millionaire. If I want fitness advice, you're not going to fat Auntie Sue. You know, you're going to go to someone that's up to speed with their nutrition.
I'd take vaccine advice from fat Auntie Sue, though. Anti-vaxxer Auntie Sue.
Well, I think I'll get on with Auntie Sue.
I love it. So talk to me about, because you just mentioned it there then. This is something that I want to talk about, the importance of having a coach, having a mentor. Yeah. Like, how much of an impact has that had?
Oh, I have a coach for every eventuality.
Me too.
You know what I mean? If I start running, I need a running coach. You know, I'm literally like that. I've got still in my property mastermind, a high level property mastermind. Mm-hmm. I'm in Nick James's 7-figure mastermind with yourself. Mm-hmm. I'm also in work with Rob Moore and his personal brand, just a small group of people that he's working with to do all of that kind of thing. So Yeah, you can learn, you can make your mistakes. People have got their own views. At the moment, I don't offer any sort of coaching, so I feel like I can be quite objective with this.
Yes.
We said earlier, it's all on YouTube, but it just depends if you want to fast track your success, if you want that level of accountability, if you want to be around a higher level of thinking to expand. When you're around people who are decamillionaires and billionaires, not that everything's about money.
What's a decamillionaire?
When you've got 10 million plus in the
Oh,
bank.
nice. All right.
Yeah, I learned that one from Rob.
Yeah, I like that. Decamillionaire.
They just talk in a different way. They're not just sat having low-level conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a different way of thinking.
They have higher standards.
They have higher standards. Yeah. They know how to get things done. It's the standards that they set for themselves as well as their team.
Yeah. I once heard a saying, which was, why would I learn? There's the concept of learning from your own mistakes, but that's expensive.
Yeah.
What's less expensive is learning from someone else's mistakes. I can't remember who said that. Might have been Rob, actually.
It's I fully agree with it. So I will always have coaches and mentors. I like to be around like-minded people. I get so much energy. I just love being at in-person events and in mastermind groups and around.
I can't fucking wait to get to an in-person event.
Oh, it's going to be amazing.
I can't wait. Yeah, we've got what have we got coming up? We've got London IFS. We've got speaking in Bulgaria September. We've got what else have we got? We've got me live show at the Time Theatre, 1,000 people. It's going to be fucking mad. Live events are the fucking shit. So, what are you working on right now?
Well, fingers crossed we're going to have a street landing in.
That's mad. Whereabouts?
That'll be in Sheffield, 24 houses. We're just appraising a huge big city centre place in Bradford at the minute, which would be like 50 apartments. So it's really scaling up quite significantly from where we're at the minute. The majority of although we've got a multi-million-pound property portfolio, it's made up of single lets and HMOs. So it'd be nice to start really getting in the juicier stuff.
Yeah.
Public speaking, the podcasting, absolutely loving the podcasting, just getting around.
What's the podcast called? On
a Mission.
On a Mission.
Yeah.
On a Mission. And you are on a mission. And we can listen to that on Spotify.
Yeah.
Apple Podcasts.
All of them, yeah.
We're on YouTube.
Yeah, we're on YouTube.
And that YouTube game's fucking... It's no joke, that YouTube game to crack. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. It blows me fucking head off.
Like,
hang on a second. I've got 16,000 downloads on Spotify, but 12 people have watched this video.
Yes, this is my problem at the moment.
Mad. It's mad. I'm like, how the fuck are people not watching this shit? It's so weird.
It's really weird, isn't it? Because it's a better experience watching it visually, I think. I don't understand. It's like you mentioned you're off to London to do 3 podcasts.
Yeah.
I'm bringing my team, you're bringing all your recording, bringing your team up and down the country.
Yeah. You're
producing some really good videos.
It's mad, innit?
And then 3 people are fucking watching.
It's mad, innit? It's funny, sometimes I think, fucking hell, that's a banger. People love that, and then no one watches it.
It's like that with social media, though, isn't it? I can put so much effort into a post, and it'll just bomb. Yeah. And then I'll just throw something out, and it'll go viral.
It's weird.
Thousands of views.
It is weird, innit? Yeah, we've got actually a guest on next Monday, a guy called Matt Abe, and he's head chef at Ramsay's restaurant.
Yeah.
And I'm so fucking excited to speak to him because we watch so many cooking programs, particularly Ramsay ones. I'm like, why the fuck would anyone want that job?
Yeah.
You ever think that?
Yeah.
You ever think, listen, I love eating in lovely restaurants, but who the fuck would take that chef job?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Imagine how stressful that is.
I know.
So, Ellie.
Yes.
What would your number one tip be for somebody that wants to get started in your game?
Well, I would just say, firstly, just do it. There is no perfect time. You're better to start now and master your craft as you go along. But whether it's property, whether it's the fire protection, whether it's podcasting, whatever, you find someone that you resonate with that's further down the path that you want to travel and go deep.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I love it. My favorite thing about this podcast today is that you have celebrated and pushed the fact that mindset matters most.
Yeah.
Like, it's like you're like, the property's not the thing for me.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can know, and I'm sure there are people that were on that property course with you, right? Back then, when was that, 2016?
Yeah.
There would have been people that were on that property course with you in 2016 who still haven't done anything. There'll have been people that have been or in masterminds that you've been in and programs that you've been in with Rob, etc., that still aren't doing anything. And the difference really isn't knowledge, it's mindset.
Yeah.
It's the ability to handle uncertainty.
I think it's the most important thing, but I think just for balance, because I talk so much around the mindset, and I'm a great believer your business can only grow the same extent that you do.
Yeah.
So sometimes it might just sound a little bit fluffy. You need to do the fucking work as well, guys. You need to be shit hot at what you do. You need to master your craft.
Yeah, knowledge don't cook rice. Yeah.
You know, all of that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But ultimately, if we weren't able to deliver, we'd come unstuck very quickly.
Let's touch on this then. I was actually gonna wrap it up there, but you mentioned it, and I really want to touch it. But we mentioned that just working on your mindset can be a little bit fluffy. What is it? What's working on your mindset? Like what's your definition of, well, all right, how do I work on my mindset? What is it like?
So for success,
it's a really interesting question, isn't it? Because mindset's always thrown out, particularly in a podcast world.
Yes.
Oh, you got to work on your mindset. Like, what is it?
To me, it's becoming the best version of myself.
Yeah.
It's every day. All I want to do every day is be better than the version of myself that was here yesterday.
How do you know you're getting better?
The compound effect's phenomenal. How you deal with stress. So success for me is happiness.
Yeah.
It's calmness.
Yeah.
It's peace. And all the other things come along with that, your physical health, your money in your bank. So the different ways that you can get that success, that happiness is, is for you to create.
Yeah.
But that for me is happiness. So what is mindset? Becoming the best version of myself. For me, the worst thing would be to lie on my deathbed, hopefully many years from now, and not think that I'd given it my best shot. We only have one crack at this.
Yeah.
But you also need your law of attraction, firm believer in all of that, meets your law of action. You've got to do the work.
I love that you've said that. Because I get asked about the law of attraction on my Instagram every day, and I'm like, it wouldn't exist without the word action.
Yes.
You can fucking sit there wishing all you want, but I think putting those two things together, action's the only fucking answer.
Yep.
I love it. Ellie Mckay, where can everyone find out more about you?
Oh, everywhere. LinkedIn,
Everywhere.
Facebook, YouTube, podcast, On a Mission podcast.
Type in Ellie Mckay Semi and you'll easily find it. Ellie Mckay, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me,
Amazing.
Paul.
Thank you. Hey.